the Rebels taking on the Tigers, and of course there's a rivalry brewing there. 5.5-point favorite, while we're citing all the lines for the LSU Tigers and just a rejuvenated, talented team, Dave, when we talk about LSU and what they've done under Ed Orgeron.
Yeah, they got it going now. But 2 games in a row where Missouri now we kind of thought that would be a great win, and it was for Ed the first time. But Missouri goes to Florida last week and pretty much looks the same there. Their passing game couldn't get going in that game either. And then LSU played Southern Miss last week too, struggled in the first half. I think it was tied 10-10. And then they come out in the third quarter and just absolutely run away with it. So this is Ed Orgeron's first show me game, I think, especially with Ole Miss was a respected opponent. Do we really expect them to start 3-4? That would be unreal, considering a lot of the preseason hype we saw with Ole Miss. But they've had a tough schedule so far this year with that. But once Chad Kelly shows up, he didn't have his best game against Arkansas, but he also still he had a good game and bad game at the same time. He was good enough to carry him, but also bad enough to hold him back just a little bit. So he struggled with his accuracy against Arkansas. But like I say, his legs was really what kept him alive in that game. But moving, I'm just not sure. This kind of seems to be a common theme with Ole Miss week after week. If they can run the ball, it would help them just a little bit, and it helped Chad Kelly and him being able to create more plays. I think if the running game got going. But if you look on the other side, LSU's defense has gotten better. Because one reason I think because the offense has been able to stay on the field with the coaching change there. So I think what you can look for, Leonard Fournette comes back. We already saw Darius Guice go wild the last couple games for LSU. So now, to me, Ole Miss really just seems to struggle with teams that would just want to line up and run the ball against them. So now with Leonard Fournette back, Darius Guice, you can really see, I think, LSU want to try and come in and establish this run game. The last SEC opponent, Missouri, a couple weeks ago, they ran for over 400 yards. So I think with Ole Miss being able, struggling to stop the run, I think you'll see that first and foremost, and then let Danny Etling play off the play action. So while I think it sounds like I'm probably going to pick LSU in this game, I think desperation mode kind of kicks in for Ole Miss, and they get a win in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, Dave, I talked about this just with the Auburn game. Mark referenced the rebirth, the revitalization of LSU. I'm not sure that they had a rebirth or revitalization. You look at that opening Wisconsin loss, they lost to Wisconsin by 2. Wisconsin just took the consensus number 2 team to overtime and lost to the consensus number 3, number 4 team Michigan by 1 score 2 weeks ago. So I think that loss is a good loss. It's an acceptable loss now. It wasn't in week 1 because people didn't think Wisconsin was a top 25 team. And if you look at their loss at Auburn, that's a game that a very fair argument could be made they should have won the game. But Auburn seems to be a very good team after their loss to Clemson, where they held them close. And then they lost to consensus number 6, number 7 team in the nation with A&M. So, I don't think the LSU necessarily has a rebirth. Obviously, the play calling has loosened up the offense, and maybe the transition of coaches took a little bit of pressure off the players. Now they don't have to play for Miles' job because he's gone. Now they can just go out and play. So maybe there's a little bit there, but I think LSU is a team that kind of suffered a little bit of perception problems after that Wisconsin loss. So I think they'll be fine. I think they're going to win this game. Here's my question about Ole Miss. It's not about the X's and O's. It's not about the blocking, the tackling. It's certainly not about Chad Kelly because he's a fantastic athlete back there at quarterback. My question is the resiliency. How is Ole Miss going to battle back from resiliency? They had a rough offseason. They lost a lot of talent to the NFL. Of course, they've had the investigation going there. They had the draft debacle with Tunsil, and Freeze getting interviewed right after that story broke, and he did not look good on national television. Then they come out and they kind of show they show themselves well in the first half of Florida State. They come back and lose that game dramatically in the second half, and they come back out and they look great against Alabama again for the first half, and they have another second half collapse. And then it looks like they get their act together after that Alabama loss. They go to Arkansas and just get punched in the face at Arkansas. So can this team, they're a lot like Tennessee. It seems like they've been living on the edge all season long. Can this team bounce back yet again, really for a 4th or 5th time this year? Or is this the game where kind of Ole Miss kind of crumbles this season? I think LSU win this game. I think Ole Miss does start 3-4. I think you're going to start hearing a lot of tough questions being asked in Oxford.
When people think about a quarterback that can put a team on his back, we go to the ACC. We think Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, because of the dynamic athletic ability and the flashy runs and just the freakish athleticism. Well, Chad Kelly isn't in their league as a runner, but he certainly, from a productivity standpoint, is close. I don't know if there's a quarterback who carries as much of a load on his back than Chad Kelly has to with that offense, considering that both of those teams, referencing Clemson and Louisville, and especially Clemson, has a very capable running back in Wayne Gallman, one of the best 10 or 15 running backs in college football. Brandon Radcliffe, a pretty good runner for Louisville, but Chad Kelly has to shoulder a huge load for the Rebels. What do you think, Mike?
Maybe Kenny Hill.
Okay. I can see that.
But yes, I mean, Chad Kelly is incredibly important to Ole Miss, and he's a great, great athlete and great quarterback back there. But maybe Kenny Hill, I don't know.
And I would have thrown Josh Dobbs in there before Kamara went crazy against A&M, because I really think the run game was struggling before that game. Hurd wasn't really doing much, is what we really expected. And, it was Dobbs in the fourth quarter against App State making plays. He went nuts against Florida in the second half of that game. With his legs and his arm. So, I mean, not quite as much as Chad Kelly, but I really think, before Kamara went crazy against Texas A&M, a lot of people were asking what was wrong with the Tennessee run game.
Closer to Ole Miss, what it kind of reminds me of was Dak Prescott last year at Mississippi State.
Yeah, it's been a few years since Mississippi State has had that guy in the backfield. It's been the bowling ball, Josh Robinson, who was,
ago, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, a few years back. But Dak Prescott, much like Chad Kelly, leading the team in rushing and also being one of the top passers in college football. And Prescott doing a pretty good job in Dallas these days as well. He's like 5-1 and may have put Tony Romo's seat on the bench permanently. Who knows?
And he has a pretty decent running back there too. I'm not sure where he came from.
I don't know that I've ever seen him play. I'll have to check him out sometime.